I'm very pleased to be here on My Magical Thing with Denny Sargent, writer, artist, lecturer, occultist, initiate of numerous esoteric traditions, including Wicca and Tantra, and of course, Taoism. Denny, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I feel like such an important person now. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, you are, my friend, you are. Denny, please may we see your magical thing?
Yes, it looks like a lowly rock. And there it is. It is a rock. And you may wonder, why does he have a rock? I will tell you. This rock came from the Temple of Pan. That's a cave in the side of the Acropolis. And let me tell you a little bit about why this is one of my more important and one of my more favorite magical items. Lord knows I have enough magical items. Excuse me, you're going to hear my hound. That is just how I live my life at this point. So just a quick, this is my newest book. And I have another one coming out called Werewolf Pack Magic. And it actually connects with Pan. And so that's, I'll end up maybe saying something about it, but I'm devolving, becoming more feral as I get older. And the great god Pan has been with me since I was 15. So a quick preview on how Pan and I got hooked up, as it were. When I was 15, this was a long time ago, and parents did things differently then. My mom, at my insistence, dropped me off at the Appalachian Trail in upstate New York because I insisted that she do it, and let me hike the Appalachian Trail by myself for a couple of weeks, which I don't think any parent would do at this point ever. Especially, I don't think she even checked what I had with me, which was vastly inappropriate, but that's the way it is. As I was hiking and, suddenly realizing, wow, I'm all alone on the Appalachian Trail and I'm 15, I found this beautiful little grove and I camped out there, and I didn't make a fire or anything. I just laid out everything and lay in my sleeping bag and lay there kind of in awe that I was doing this. And in the middle of the night, I was awakened by a sound that sounded like a little tick, like something hitting a rock. I was right by a stream. And I woke up instantly filled with literally with panic. I don't know why. I was overwhelmed by a complete tsunami of fear. And I looked up and there was this massive shadow standing over me. And I eventually did a painting of it. But essentially what it was a shadowy figure with giant horns. And I was a sort of a baby pagan at that point, so I was kind of aware that this was something unusual, and I was again filled with an absolute flood of fear to the point of losing my mind, and then an intense calm that was unlike anything I've ever had before. And I realized I had sort of a deep communication on a nonverbal level. This was the great god Pan, who had just come by to say hi and basically let me know, you're one of mine, and then disappeared. So the rest of my life, I've been deeply involved in working through this. Later on in my life, I studied all these different things. I ended up being initiated as a Welsh traditional witch, where Pan was not one of the main deities, but Cernunnos was. So it was. This horn god thing suddenly I realized was a thing that was part of my life, and it was going to be. And I started, sort of trying to figure out, what am I doing? Who am I in the magical universe and all this? And I ended up taking the name Ion as my magical name, AION, and I publish under that name sometimes. Because my motto was all into one, into none. Mm-hmm. And then a friend of mine who was wiser and more proficient at things than I was, she said to me, well, you realize that adds up to 131. I said, well, I don't really know, Kabbalah. I'm 17. I just graduated high school. My Kabbalah blood knowledge was not so. And I said, well, how so? And she just showed me, AION, and she did it, alpha, aleph and yod and an and nun, and adds up to 131. I said, oh, well, that's nice. Why is that important? She goes, well, you keep blathering on about Pan. Pan is 131. And I said, oh, damn. So I started doing work with Pan, started doing a lot of ritual work with Pan. But not that incessantly. I was too busy being a witch and a pagan and all these other things. But in I think it was the early 80s. Suddenly I was out hiking. I was in the San Juan Islands, a very powerful magical place. And out here, I'm in Seattle, out here in Washington. And I just did a sort of magical retreat and did ritual work. I didn't really invoke Pan. I was just there to meditate and all sorts of things. And suddenly I was overwhelmed by the same sort of prickly panic along with ecstasy that had kind of heralded this experience I had had. And a voice came into my head, this booming, terrifying voice came through me and said, write this down. Basically, write this down. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. What triggered it was a otter jumped out of the water, came right up to my campsite, hopped up on a log and stared at me. I mean, like as close as I am to this computer screen, an otter. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, this is like a fairy tale. And in fact, it was very much like a fairy tale, because at that moment I heard this voice saying, write this down. So I grabbed my magical diary and I started it just came out of me. I had no idea what I wrote down. And later I looked at it and it was basically the god Pan giving me this missive, as it were. And I was like, what the hell, right? I'm having a grand mal seizure. I'm not doing any drugs, and maybe I should be doing more. And, and like, I didn't understand it at all. So I just kind of put it to the side and said, all right, this was a neurological something or other. A couple of years later, a similar thing happened to me. This time I was in the heart of New York City, and a thunderstorm came over the building and boom, shook the whole building. And again, the voice came and said, write this down. And then the third time it happened at the ocean in Washington. I was in a sea stack, which is a huge piece of rock sticking out of the water, and there was a cave underneath. I went underneath, did some meditation, and boom, got the exact same thing. So it ended up being part of this book that I did, yeah. And I mean, it took me 30 years to finally put that book together, because I spent 30 years trying to figure out what is all this about. And what it is that the god Pan had come through me and told me some things and had given me this sort of transmission, and I put it down. And then I realized it had an entire system built around it. Okay. So the sort of a crowning moment of when this was starting to happen, I went to Greece, and I liked to travel at that point. I lived in Japan for 4 years. I've traveled to, 28, 29 countries. But Greece had always been important to me, and especially with the god Pan being, like riding me like a horse, right? And I'm like, all right, let's go to Pan. And I said, I want to see the Temple of Pan in the Acropolis. And it's a long story, and I won't go into it, but Pan had actually saved the Athenian army, and then looked at them and said, well, you love me, but you don't have a temple for me. Can you please make one? And so he did. Anyway, so I found it. It took some doing. Nobody knew where the cave of Pan was, which I thought was hilarious. Finally, this old man, this is like this great fairy tale. This old man all the guards said, we don't know where that is. It's up on the Acropolis. No, I've already been there. He said, go through this little gate here and go around the Acropolis. You'll see it. And I did. And no one else was there. So I got to do a big ritual there, and I got this rock. That's kind of the short story. So, all right. I got this rock. I got this really powerful thing, that had happened, and I did this ritual, and it was really powerful. I'm coming down off the Acropolis, and I'm high, and I'm totally like enthralled, in the embrace of the deity. And I come stumbling down the hill, walk right into a sign that says Cave of Pan, and there was another one down there I didn't realize. I was like, okay, that's fine. Hi, Pan. Yes, thank you. You're with me now. All of a sudden, I hear flutes. I hear a piping, just like, you know, the guy. And I'm like, okay, neurological incident number 2, right? I'm like, okay, that's just how magic worked. And you know, go with the flow. And I follow it through this ruins. I come to what used to be another temple. I don't know, a bunch of Greek temples were around there, and there was a guy playing the pan flute, and I just walked up to him in trance and listened, and I felt, you know, like this was Pan saying, you know, nice job, dude. And he stopped and he smiled, and I said, I just finished worshiping, you know, giving honor to the god Pan, and here you are. And he smiled. He said, oh yeah, every day. So all the hair, I used to have hair, right? All the hair stands straight up on my head, right? And I'm like, okay, this is a good day. I mean, this is a wonderful day. So that is my magical item. And then I think I have one more little piece of the puzzle to talk about, which is, so I bring it back. I have a pan altar, and I would love to show you. I'll send you a photo of it, and if you want to tag it on, you can. I have the biggest pan altar anyone has ever had in their whole life. It's got like, it's like one of these wedding cakes. It has just grown and grown and grown. I mean, I don't know if you can see him way in the background, but I have a pan right behind me in the window. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are pans everywhere. People, of course, now have started giving me pans galore. So I come back and I have a friend, and I'll give her a little plug, Katamara Rosarium. She does herbs and incenses, and they're quite amazing, and they're quite magical, and they're quite powerful. And we are good friends, and have done a lot of interesting ritual work together. But she contacted me because she knew this story, and she said, our company is now making perfumes and colognes and things, and we would like to borrow your rock. And I said, why? She goes, we're going to brew the entire thing ritually over the period of several months, and it's really crucial to us. She had seen the rock, and she said, there's some really amazing mojo in this rock. We'd like to put it in it. And I said, yes, sure, why not? So this is it. This is it's called Pan. It's called Pan perfume, and I only wear it for special occasions, of course. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. Let's have another look at the rock from the great god Pan. Wow. That's
and now you think it's just a rock. It's not. Wow. So just a final thing, like,
oh yeah,
Pan shows up in this as the I was, you know, it's another long conversation, so I won't go deeply into it, but I went through a major crisis in my life. A three-eyed wolf came to me in meditation and said, I can help you through this, and did. And it ended up being a book. I didn't plan to write a book. But one of the key people in that is constantly referred to in ancient witchcraft trial documents, a lot in England, as the Lord of the Forest, or the Dark Lord. And it's one of the major deity forces in that book. And it is, in fact, the horn god himself. It is the great god Pan. It took me a while to realize, like, oh, you know, you're going to be in like all my books now, Pan. Every single book has that Pan in it. So anyway, that's the full circle of my story. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What were you saying?
All devourer, all begetter. Amazing. Right. Denny, thank you so much for sharing with us the magic of the great god Pan. And I would like to see the rock one more time. I think we'll. Right. Oh, there it is. Ah, the token from Pan's temple in Greece at the Acropolis.
Oh, there it is.
Denny, thank you so much. Nice one, my friend.
Thank you, Julian. You're awesome, and I hope you come back to the US again. I'd like to have a beer with you.
Yeah, man, we'll hang out. That'd be great. See you soon.